They say in this life, you are either the driver or the road. For 30 years, I chose to be the road, letting the big men of this city run over me so my children could walk on smooth ground. I drove them through the streets of Lagos, listening to their secrets, smelling their expensive cologne, and keeping my mouth shut. I believed that if I kept my shirt clean, feared God, and kept a clear conscience, my children would never have to sit where I sit, behind the wheel of another man's dream. I sent my son and daughter to the best universities I could afford. I told them, study hard, be a good citizen, fear God, and do not covet what is not yours. Hard work pays, merit rewards. But as I watched them sit at my kitchen table day after day, staring at those expensive degrees while the electricity bill turned into a threat, I realized the keys I gave them didn't fit any of the doors in this city. Integrity is a heavy coat to wear when the sun is hot and your stomach is empty. That night, the air in my house felt like lead. Esther had washed her only white blouse so many times the collar was wearing thin, all for interviews that ended before they began. Junior didn't even look up when I walked in, he just stared at that phone. I saw his spirit leaking out of him, drop by drop. He was becoming a shadow, a ghost of the man I promised he would be. I sat in the dark and looked at the eviction notice on the table. It wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about the look in their eyes. That look of a child who realizes their father's wisdom was just a fairy tale. I had protected my name my whole life, but my name couldn't pay the rent or give my children a reason to wake up in the morning. I started to wonder, what is a good man, what if his family is fading away? Then came the rain. Madam sat in the back, smelling of tears and expensive soap. She showed me the video, the kind of violence that doesn't belong in a home, let alone a mansion. She looked at me through the rearview mirror, her eyes pleading. Mr. Cole, she whispered, you are the only one I trust. Take this. Post it. Let the world see him for what he is. She thought my honesty was her shield. She didn't know that a hungry man's honesty is a fragile thing. I looked at her bruised cheek, and then I looked at a photo of my children pinned to the sun visor. In that moment, the straight path I had walked for 60 years vanished. I saw a shortcut. It was dark, and it was dirty, but it led to a place where my children could breathe. My heart hammered against my ribs like a trapped bird. I told her I would help. I took the phone. But I didn't go to the police. I didn't ask for millions. Money disappears, but a career is a foundation. I stood in that office, smelling the scotch on his breath, and I laid out the price of my silence. 2 jobs. System analyst and legal counsel. Permanent positions with all the benefits. I watched the man who used to shout orders at me look at me with a new kind of respect, the respect one monster gives another. He signed the papers right there. No bribe, no envelopes of cash. Just 2 signatures that changed the destiny of my bloodline. As I walked out of that office, I felt a strange coldness in my bones. I had saved my children, but I had left that woman in the den of a lion. I looked up at the sky and whispered to a God I wasn't sure was listening anymore, I will beg for her forgiveness if she finds out, but my children have to leave first. Their joy was like a knife. They danced around the kitchen, shouting, God did it. Thank you, Jesus. They thanked me for teaching them to be patient. I had to stand there and smile, tasting the ash in my mouth. Every hug felt like a lie. They were standing on a foundation built of another woman's screams, and they didn't even know it. I realized then that I could never tell them. Their success was my punishment. I went back to the car one last time. I saw Madam. She looked at me, waiting for the news that the world knew her story. I couldn't look back. I couldn't be her driver, her witness, or her friend anymore. I handed the keys to the boss and walked away. I told them I was too old to drive. The truth was, I was too ashamed to sit in a seat that required me to look in a mirror. Now, I sit here in the quiet. My house is paid for. My children are big people in the city. They think they climbed the mountain, but I am the one who buried the bodies under the path. I see them off every morning, and for a moment, I feel a spark of pride. But then the silence returns. I told myself I would ask for forgiveness. But as I sit here, I realize that for a man like me, there is no later. Every time I see my daughter smile, I see Madam's tears. Every time my son talks about integrity at his farm, I hear the sound of that video playing in the dark. I saved my children's lives, but I lost the man I used to be. And in the end I think that was the price life intended for me to pay. I only hope Madam is still alive.